This is for Monday, November 2nd. Today we are starting on a new skill, and our learning target for this week is that we are learning to solve word problems using multiplication and division strategies. We started out with an opener that was a sort. Students took these strips of paper and grouped them either as a multiplication word problem or as a division. So I just wanted to do that so you could see what they were looking at. If we take this one and we say 6 objects put into 2 groups. 6 objects put into 2 groups. So we're putting something into groups, that would be division. This one, 9 objects shared with 3 people. So you're taking the 9 objects and you're sharing it among 3 people. So that would also be division. 3 rows of 2 objects. That sounds like an array to me, so that would be multiplication. 10 objects divided into 5 groups. That would also be division. The big clue is that you have the division, the divided word in there. 5 stacks of 4 objects. That's another way of saying groups, so that would be multiplication, equal groups of the same amount. A group of 8 objects split into 4 parts. So split would be divide. That's a synonym for divide. 4 groups of 5, that would be multiplication. And 2 groups of 5 objects, that would also be multiply. So there you have the sort. These are words that involve multiplication, rows of objects, stacks of objects, groups of objects. And here's another group. These are division words. When you put into groups, that's division, share, divided, or split. So we have learned about different ways to show multiplication and division over the past several weeks. In this lesson, over the next several days, we're going to learn how to solve multiplication and division word problems like our learning target said. Today we're going to look at solving one-step word problems using multiplication and division. So we're going to have one step. It's not going to be more than one. We're going to go through these steps and figure out how to write a word problem about this picture right here with the baseballs. Think of the picture as showing an array. Describe what it shows. So in class we talked about how it's 5 rows of baseballs with 8 baseballs in each row. Or some of the students looked at it and saw that it was 8 columns with 5 baseballs in each column. So either way, we have the same amount in all. It's just a different way of looking at it. Now, if we think of a picture as showing equal groups, how would we describe what that shows if we're looking at the same picture in equal groups? If we have 5 groups of baseballs, with 8 baseballs in each group. So we could group it up like that, draw a circle around that and make a group out of it. And each row would represent a group, 5 groups with baseballs. Or if we looked at it and putting in each of the columns into a group, we would see that we had 8 groups of baseballs with 5 baseballs in each group. If we write a fact family that this picture shows, and we're going to make sure we use 2 multiplication equations and 2 division equations, what would that look like? We could say 5 times 8 equals 40, or 8 times 5 equals 40, based on how we looked at it. If we looked at the rows or the columns, if we looked at the groups in terms of rows or columns. And then we could say if we have 40 baseballs in all put into 5 groups, there would be 8 in each group, or 40 divided by 8 is 5. So all of those are fact families for that picture. Why can the picture be used to describe both multiplication and division? The picture shows 40 baseballs. You can think of it as multiplying to find the total, or as dividing the whole group into equal parts. That's how we came about these sentences. Pick one of the multiplication or division equations we wrote right here in the fact family And we could use that equation to write a word problem about the picture. And here's just an example that the teacher page had. There are 40 baseballs divided into 8 groups. How many baseballs are in each group? In class, students came up with different word stories and we shared them out with one another. So sometimes we can write a multiplication equation to help us solve a word problem. Other times we can write either a multiplication or a division equation. So let's look at these examples using these pictures. There are 6 bananas in each bunch. How many bananas are in 2 bunches? We could solve that problem using this number sentence. 2 times 6 equals what? And that's just a question mark. Or 6 times 2 equals what? So if we go back and look at the word problem, we have the number 6 and we have the number 2. How many is in each group and the number of groups. We're not given the total. We might know it in our head, but we're not given that. So we take the numbers that we're given and we turn it into a number sentence with the part that we don't know that we have to figure out. Example 2, 2 bunches have a total of 12 bananas. Each bunch has the same number of bananas. How many bananas are in each bunch? So in this word problem, it's telling us the total. We're given that. We're given that it's 2, we have 2 bunches. In our head, again, we might know how many ends up being in each group, but we have to make a number sentence that would help us solve this question, solve the problem. So we could solve that by using the problem 2 times what equals 12, or 12 divided by 2 equals what? And the last example, each bunch has 6 bananas. If there are 12 bananas, how many bunches are there? We're given 12 and 6, so we have to turn that into a number sentence. We could solve that problem by saying 6 times what equals 12, or 12 divided by 6 equals what? Write a multiplication equation and a division equation that could help you solve the problem below. Then solve the problem. If you'll pause the video right now and see if you can figure that out, if you'd like to grab a piece of paper and write it down, or if you have some type of device that you'd like that has like a stylus, a notepad that you could pull it up and write it that way, and just come back with me and see if you got the same answer that I did. So a hat rack has 2 rows of hooks. Let me get my pen. A hat rack has 2 rows of hooks. And each row has the same number of hooks. The rack has 10 hooks in all. So how many hooks are on each row? We have a total of 10. So I can put that there. And each row, there's 2 rows. We don't know how many there are in all. So we could just put a question mark there like we did on the slide before. Write a multiplication equation and a division equation. All right, so that's a multiplication equation. If we have 10 hooks that need to go on each of 2 rows, 10 divided by 2 would equal what? We may know it in our head, but we're not given that part. We're given these 2 numbers, and those are the ones we work with to create a number sentence, an equation. How many hooks are on each row? Well, if we know our facts, we know we can put a 5 in here. So we would say that the unknown or question mark would be 5. And 10 divided by 2. So we're going to take 10 hooks, and I'm just going to model that out. Count out to 10, putting 1 on each of the rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I can easily see that there are 5 hooks on each row. So that's fact families. Here's our quick check. If you'd like to look at it again and pause the video, come work your answer out on paper and then check back with me. Write a multiplication equation and a division equation that can help you solve this problem and then solve it. So Oscar's art teacher hands out 3 stamps to each member of the art club. He hands out a total of 24 stamps. So we know how many in all, how many members are in the art club. So the multiplication equation I could write is 3 times some number that I don't know. It's not given to me in the problem. Again, that might be one you know the answer to in your head. And what does that equal? Well, if you know your threes facts, you know that 3 times 8 is 24. Or if we write it as a division problem, I have a total of 24 stamps, and I'm going to give 3 of those to each of the team members. And I could, if I don't know my facts yet, I could actually draw it out, giving 3 stamps to each member. I would do it in groups of 3, like this. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And that, so after I did that, I could see that I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups. Same answer. Question mark equals 8. That is it for the Monday lesson. If you will find the math practice sheet that I sent to your Gmail, and if you cannot print, if you will look at the pages and write your answers down on a piece of notebook paper, you do not have to rewrite the questions, but if you'll just put your answers on paper so that you can turn that into me when you return to school, then please let me know if you have any questions.